Honorable members, before we proceed with the order paper, I wish to acknowledge the presence in the gallery of senior military officers from the South African National War College who took, let's just listen. They took the parliamentary educational tour earlier today. And they are also joined by the learners from the SANDF of the Junior Senior Command Staff Program for 2018-2019. And I would like to welcome them on behalf of Parliament. In the same breath, I would like honorable members to acknowledge the presence in the gallery of Klaas de Jonge from the Netherlands, who served in MK's Special Operations Unit. Where is the Honorable Klaas de Jonge? There he is. Welcome to Parliament. Welcome to the Parliament you fought for. Honorable members, the only item on the order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. Members, of course, as usual, may press the talk button on their desks if they wish to ask a supplementary question. And I wish to remind honorable members that the names of members requesting supplementary questions will be cleared as soon as the Honorable the Deputy President starts answering the fourth supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable C.C. September. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity. Honorable members, the lot and the plight of young people remains foremost in our efforts as a country to radically and economically transform our society. As Madiba taught us, that, I quote, "Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity, it is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, it can be overcome and eradicated by actions of human beings. Sometimes it falls on a generation to be great," close quote. We want young people to become Madiba's anti-poverty generation. Ours as a government is to help young people to realize their dreams. In all we do, we must put young people first. The future is theirs to inherit. We must provide them with the necessary tools to ensure that we unlock their latent talent that will allow them to carry themselves by the weight of their own bootstraps. For we are acutely aware that young people crave opportunities, that they are afflicted by their given family conditions, that they are what they are by mere accidents of birth, born into social constructs that keeps them trapped in conditions of poverty and unemployment, and chained by the accumulated burdens of our past. We are determined to enable the youth to rise by the sheer weight of their talent and determination. In this regard, Madam Speaker, let me start by emphasizing the importance of special measures to support young people and women so that we unlock the enormous resource that is often underutilized and which can help us grow and transform our own economy. Key among such measures is industrial funding to youth and female entrepreneurs. I've been informed that in 2015, in this very chamber, the Minister of Economic Development had set aside to the Independent Development Corporation to ensure at least 4.5 billion in funding be made available to women-empowered companies over a period of 5 years. To date, the IDC has exceeded that target. But it has not stopped. It is still lending more to women entrepreneurs. Similarly, a target was set for youth-empowered companies, also 4.5 billion over a 5-year period. We can report also that this target has been exceeded. The IDC funding to women and youth-empowered businesses has also crowded in private sector funding, bringing much-needed financial capacity to a new class of South African entrepreneurs. The measures we are taking through partnership with the private sector on the YES initiative, as well as our own efforts as government to scale up internship opportunities, is beginning to provide our young people with the real opportunities, though we must scale this up so that more young people and female South Africans are included in the economy. We're also addressing the structural constraints that continue to impede on participation of more women and youth in the economy. The Competition Amendment Act, which was signed by the President 2 weeks ago, is just one example of legislation that is directed at increasing participation and investment in our economy. This law directly responds to the need for a more inclusive economy in which women, young people, small businesses, new entrants, and young innovators can enter the market and thrive. As government, we have recognized that we require a more robust process of skilling the nation through targeted investment in innovation, targeted investment in research and development that equally respond to the supply and demand in the labor market so that our country is not left behind in global developments. We shall therefore see the National Development Plan as the basis or foundation of our approach to this much talked about fourth industrial revolution. This means that our policies, our strategies, our plans should place young people and employment creation at the center of all our efforts. We cannot afford to lag behind emerging global developments. That is why we must engage on a process of continuous innovation, research, skilling of our people, in particular the youth, in order to meet the demands of today's knowledge-based economy. Let us be clear in our minds and in everything we do that the fourth industrial revolution is not a destination, but the reality of the moment. The pace of change over the last few years has largely been shaped by technological disruptions and innovations. Already there are sectors that are now supplemented by robotics and other artificial intelligence inventions. Simply put, there are jobs that were previously considered as vocational, but are now becoming technologically intense and require specialized knowledge and skills. We therefore have to keep up with these developments. It is precisely for this reason, Madam Speaker, that the process is currently underway to appoint individuals to the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, as announced by the President in the State of the Nation address in 2018. The Commission will coordinate the efforts of South Africa's national response through a comprehensive action plan to deal with the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Having said that, let me reflect on some of the programs led by government that focus on the preparation of young people and women of this new era of global economy. As government, we recognize the need to make smart investment in research and development which support our industrialization plan, including manufacturing, that will lead to the creation of the more jobs that we require. In this regard, the Department of Science and Technology is investing in a range of outreach intervention that enhances the capacity of young people and women to create employment opportunities for themselves and for others. The department also supports a number of accelerated training programs in areas where there are skills shortages. This includes, for example, programs providing training in data science and analytics. It also includes the Mobile Lab initiative that provide mobile application development support to youth-based enterprises. Through this program, the Department of Science and Technology is providing opportunities for young people and women to interact with the technologies that will shape our future. Our initiatives include the network of industrial development centers and technology stations where a large number of beneficiaries are women and young people. Industrial development centers are an outreach activity of the Council for Science and Industrial Research, providing product development support to entrepreneurs in new economic growth areas such as biotechnology and nanotechnology. Technology stations are one of the oldest programs of the Department of Science and Technology, where small and medium enterprises, especially youth and women, are provided with a range of technology services, including product development and skills development. Technology stations are located in a number of our universities of technologies. Through the Department of Telecommunication and Postal Services, government is forging partnership with key industries in the information communication and technology to implement programs that prepare our youth for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. These programs include the training of young people in various disciplines that are related to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. These disciplines include coding, data analytics, and blockchain. Our partnership with Google has since 2017 benefited 131,000 980 young people, of which of that number, 58% are female. Through the South African Network Academy Program, Cisco has to date trained 150,000 young people and has set aside a target of 15,000 in 2019. Over the past 2 years, Huawei Seat of the Future program continues to expose students to the advanced ICT knowledge. In addition, Microsoft is involved in a new partnership program in South Africa targeting the training of millions of our young people by 2023. Young people will be the major beneficiaries of these training programs. Government is also working to prepare the environment for e-commerce, which will go a long way towards enabling SMMEs to provide services and transact online. Through its ICT women empowerment programs, that is done by the Department of Communication, government has so far trained 450 women on digital skills to empower them with the necessary skills required to participate in the fourth industrial revolution. Broadly speaking, Madam Speaker, our government is alive to the changing environment and is committed to ensuring that key programs are implemented to align our training and development with the demands of the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you very much.
The Honorable September.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, indeed the ANC-led government must be congratulated for establishing such an elaborate integrated national strategy that indeed can advise on the development for skills and indeed for ensuring that we take care of any future work that comes out of changes that would be made to the fourth industrial revolution. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, the Economist Intelligence Unit at an international level have ranked South Africa out of very many different countries. We are number 38 of our readiness for the fourth industrial revolution. Now, Honorable Deputy President, may you inform this House on what the program for women would be to advance access to land, for them to participate in agriculture and rural economies as an economic opportunity, as well as to prepare youth and women, and of course workers, for the fourth industrial revolution, and what benefits will the integrated national strategy have to skills development and future work that would be created. We're asking, Honorable Deputy President, that later in the year, South Africa will be sending a group of young people that will compete in Russia, a group of young artisans. What message do you have for young people as they go to that competition to make sure that they can be successful? Lastly, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Honorable September, I think you did ask a question already. Thank you very much. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The IMC on land reform will soon be tabling its report, and the advisory panel also will do so in due course, now at the end of March. The issue of women and young people in agriculture will be a priority as we table that report. The view from the IMC is that we must open opportunities for young people, open opportunities for women to enter agriculture and be productive and be supported by government. So let me not preempt that report. The report will be tabled. Our message to young people is that it is their time. They must take this advantage to learn and to support their own country. They can only make their meaningful contribution if they've trained, they've got skills, if they attended schools, because that's when they attend school, that when they will be exposed to new knowledge on how best to turn our country for the better for all of us. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, I'm sure you'll agree with me that one of the first and most basic requirements for any industrial revolution is, in fact, electricity, something which you glossed over today. That being said, South Africa faces a crisis of epic proportions. 10 million, almost 10 million citizens are unemployed. South Africa accounts for 2.4% of the entire world's unemployed population, and recently became the leaders in youth unemployment. So much for putting young people first. Now, you've outlined a number of programs and interventions today, but it is common cause that bad ANC policy decisions and terrible job-killing legislation are the real reasons why we don't have employment in South Africa. Now, you spoke about some of the legislation, Honourable September mentioned agriculture. Well, just last year, this House passed the sugar tax. It's already cost 1,000 jobs. It's on the brink of costing another 350,000 jobs. Now, we can't continue to create jobs and all these programs that you're announcing when you pass legislation in the House that kills jobs. So can you get serious about stopping the job-killing legislative program? Will you announce today to us in this House that you will review the sugar tax and its terrible effects on the people of South Africa?
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Well, I didn't hear the question. It was just a speech, but of course I will try and respond. Well, South Africa's economy is a very big economy, especially in Africa. It's a very diversified economy, and this economy is growing. And therefore, we are bound to have challenges. These challenges are very positive because they propel our growth. Now, the shortage of electricity is a sign of growth. If you remember, it's a sign of growth. It's a sign of growth. Yesterday, electricity was only given to a few people. And today, electricity is given to millions of people. And it's a sign of growth. Of course, as we grow, we are going to encounter challenges of growth. But what is important as a country, if I can go back to the question, how do we prepare this country for the next revolution? A revolution that will require skills. The world is more and more gravitating towards technology in order to speed up production, delivery of services. So we must prepare our people. We must prepare our young people to tap into technology so that they can start and be innovative. In that way, we are going to be better. I can tell you that South Africa, without really patting ourselves on the back, South Africa is the best economy in Africa. And our children are doing great. Our universities are doing great. There's a lot more to be done in terms of innovation, in terms of science. This country must invest more and more on research, invest more and more on education. And I think we're on the right track. Thank you very much.
The Honorable
Madam Speaker,
Reverend Mishwe,
Madam Speaker,
what are you rising on?
Rule 1423. I asked about the sugar tax.
No,
The Deputy
Honorable.
President has not answered the question.
Honorable
I
Steenhuisen,
asked him
please take your
specifically
seat.
about, but Madam
Honorable
Speaker,
Steenhuisen, take your seat.
Then
We
this is-
now proceed to the next
Doesn't have an answer,
supplementary
that-
question. Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, the ACDP believes that in order for government to create decent jobs, they should create an enabling environment for small businesses to thrive. Key to this is energy security and policy certainty. Erratic energy supply in a country hampers new investments, economic growth, and job creation. What is government doing to address the lack of jobs for youth and women? And what programs will government introduce to ensure that job creation is not hampered by the absence of energy security? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President. There seems to be a sound problem. Please
There's
proceed.
sabotage? Okay. Thank you. Well, the problem of unemployment in South Africa is very huge. Government has created some public employment programs trying to address the low-skilled young people and unskilled young people that did not have an opportunity to go to school. There's that group of young people that still need to be skilled, to be trained, and be given a job. Hence our expanded public works program. Of course, universities, our TVET colleges are training young people on vocational skills that are required by our economy. And these colleges, they used to be called TVET colleges. Now these colleges are really training and are partnering with industry so that from time to time, those young people who are in these colleges are exposed to the world of work. They do their internship there. And I'm sure gradually, our training is going to be upscaled. And those who are in universities, you can see the enrollment is shooting up. That means more and more of our young people are now taking keen interest in education. That would make their chances of finding a job better. The question of unemployment is a reality which we must all grapple with. It cannot be a problem of government alone. SMMEs, we agree that they are very important in any economy. Very important, that is the base of any economy. And they're very important in giving those 2, 3, 5 jobs. Now, it's important for government to support SMMEs. In this very government that is led by the ANC, a Department of Small Businesses was created with the focus of supporting small, medium enterprises because we are aware of its importance. Its importance, these 5, 10 jobs, very important. Now, over time, we have realized that there are bottlenecks, there are constraints that are surrounding SMMEs. Hence, the amendment of the Competition Act. There are monopolies in our economy that are closing space for SMMEs to produce. And this Competition Act that has been signed, very important to open that space for SMMEs to flourish. Opening space for SMMEs will also assist in job creation because they will employ people. But it will also assist in strengthening our economy, expanding our revenue base as government, because those small SMMEs will pay tax, so our tax base as government is going to increase. Definitely, all efforts are geared towards fighting unemployment, supporting SMMEs, but in the process, the world is changing. The way SMMEs are producing goods and services, it must change. They must be fast. They must be supported technologically so that they move with time. That is very important. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Ms. Deputy President, Bonang Mohal, who is the CEO of PSL, had this to say after the budget of the Finance Minister. And I quote, "Despite the allocation in the budget by the Finance Minister of 19.8 billion for industrial business incentives and 481 billion rand to the Small Development Agency to expand the Small Business Incubation Program, we would like to see a more detailed sector focus to remove barriers to market entry of SMEs and reignite President Cyril Ramaphosa's commitment to revitalizing township economies," unquote. Now, Mr. Deputy President, you have alluded to structural impediments or inhibitors preventing the youth and women to entering the business sector or the job market. What are these structural impediments? How far has the government dealt with them? And from such, what specific lessons have you learned, and have you found the interventions to be helpful to the youth and women? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President, I hear there are 3 questions in that. So, go ahead, Deputy President.
Well, from the time I've joined Cabinet, I was fortunate to be part of a discussion where we're discussing the Competition Amendment Act. And I realized that this act is very fundamental in opening opportunities for those who want to enter into business. It's very important to break down monopolies. Every product that we are buying as South African belongs to a conglomerate, to a monopoly. Very difficult for emerging SMMEs to enter the market. So as government, we must break those barriers, allow SMME new entrants into the economy, and those new entrances must be protected. So that is my experience. Hence the emphasis on small businesses and removing the impediments that blocks them, that don't allow them to enter in the economic space. I chose to answer that question, not the rest of your questions. You're only entitled for 1 question.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. We now proceed to question number 2, asked by the Honorable Steenhuisen. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This question is coming for the second time within a period of a year. And I'm sure it demonstrates the importance and the gravity of this matter. We must state at the onset that all members of this House and those who have been appointed to the executive have a constitutional obligation to represent the interests of the electorate and to be accountable to the people in the execution of their responsibilities. That is why in our response in April 2018 to this similar question, we assured this House that mechanisms were introduced at the level of the executive to ensure that cabinet colleagues do honor their responsibilities to this House. And where they are unable to attend member statements and oral questions sessions, for whatever reasons, such should be communicated in good time to the presiding officers. Honorable members, ministers and deputy ministers are well aware of the National Assembly's rules that govern questions for oral and written replies. I wish to reiterate that many of the ministers and deputy ministers do make every effort to ensure that they comply with these rules. There are instances where members of the National Executive do not fully comply by either not submitting written replies or submitting written replies after stipulated deadlines. In such instances, we look forward to the implementation of the National Assembly's rule, Rule 136(1), which provides that the Speaker must, in consultation with the Rules Committee, establish a system to monitor and report regularly to the House on questions that have been endorsed as unanswered on the question paper, and that the leader of government business must be informed of any steps taken in respect of any member of the executive in giving effect to the monitoring of replies. With regards to the attendance of ministers and deputy ministers, I furthermore, on a regular basis, remind all my colleagues to attend member statements, oral sessions in this House. I was very happy yesterday. We had a contingent of 9 ministers, 6 deputy ministers throughout the session as we are dealing with member statements. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the response, Deputy President. In any institution, the tone is always set from the top. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that.
Yes.
In the last session of this Parliament for 2018, you yourself were absent for 3 of your oral question sessions in this National Assembly. These sessions are not only a requirement in terms of our rules, and you've quoted very extensively from them, but they're also a constitutional requirement in terms of Section 92(1) of the Constitution, which says that you and your cabinet colleagues are accountable collectively and individually to this House for your actions. Now, I'm sure that you would agree with me that it sets a very bad tone to ministers and deputy ministers when a senior office bearer like the leader of government business himself misses 3 of its oral question sessions, denying us the opportunity to hold you accountable. Now, the reason we were given by the President in Parliament was that you were ill. So imagine our surprise when a few days later, a spokesperson in your office said that you were not ill, but you were in fact on sick leave in Russia. So can you take the House into your confidence today about why you missed those sessions at the end of last year? Thank you.
Honorable Speaker.
Is that a point of order?
It is absolute point of order in terms of Rule 92.
The Honorable
Speaker.
Deputy
Thank you.
President, you are allowed to take a seat.
Honorable Speaker,
there is a personal reflection in terms of the person of the Honorable Deputy President. Yes, it is that this number of meetings and so forth and absence and whatever reasons were given, the whole substance of it is a personal reflection. We suggest, therefore, Honorable Speaker, if we may be heard, opposition ought to be patient. We suggest that if there's anything against the good name of the Honorable Deputy President, it be done via the correct channel of a substantive motion, failing which the point is no longer an issue about a follow-up question to the question on the order paper. We suggest that you give a ruling or a considered ruling, Honorable Speaker, due respect.
Thank you very much. I intend to check the exact words that Honorable Steenhuisen used and come back on that particular matter that you are putting forward. But do agree that indeed, if there is any reflection on the character of the Deputy President, that be submitted in the form of a substantive motion. I will now allow the Deputy President to reflect in the best way he can on what has been put to him. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's correct, I was not in this House for 3 occasions when I was supposed to be here. And we communicated to the House our apologies in due course that won't be available to be present in the House. Now, in the first instance, I had to undertake medical treatment in Russia. And I said so in this very same house that I took medical treatment. And if any need arises, I'll continue to do so for the sake of my health. I will. Now, in the other instances, the 2 instances, I took a meeting with all the heads of state that are responsible for the South Sudan peace process. A meeting that was pre-arranged, and I could not absent myself. I was supposed to subject myself, these leaders of these different countries, Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, they've made themselves available for this meeting. So I had to attend, and I gave an apology. Now, the 3rd occasion, I received a message from the President that the Prime Minister of France is coming to the country and I must prepare myself to receive him. And I indicated as such. Now, late hour on the very same day the Prime Minister was supposed to arrive, we got a message that he's no longer arriving. So those were the 3 occasions, and really, it's not our intention to really undermine the House. We will not do that deliberately, but the House must understand that in certain instances, we've got certain duties that we do outside this House. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you very much, Deputy President, for your response and the efforts that you have taken to ensure that ministers are accountable to this House, as you have explained in your response. Deputy President, our understanding of the role of members of the executive is service delivery to the people and to attend to other broader responsibilities delegated to them by the Constitution and the President who appointed them. Those being inside and outside the country, but notwithstanding their accountability to this House and the people of the Republic. The issue of the questions to ministers is supposed to be educative and also to articulate the government's policy and ensure its implementation to the nation on issues of service delivery and many others that they are expected to. So, Deputy President, is it not that we need to look at the quality instead of the quantity of those responses, and expecting ministers to attend each and every sitting of this House when they have other delegated responsibility?
Honorable Maseko, your time has expired,
Thank
and
you
I
very
haven't
much,
had a
Speaker.
question, by the way. I'll allow you to ask a question.
Deputy President, is the issue of, don't you think we should be more qualitative than quantitative on expectations of the questions that are asked to the ministers, and not expecting ministers to be here each and every day of the sitting? Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think as Cabinet we've agreed that in any given time and moment there should be a presence in the House of ministers and deputy ministers. So we've arranged and organized ourselves in terms of clusters of ministers that on a particular day they must be in the House. We can't, all of us, ministers, deputy ministers, be in the House because we've got a government to run. But there should be, at any moment, at any given time, there should be a presence of ministers and deputy ministers in the House. So we've agreed that a certain cluster will attend on a particular day and deal with those responsibilities in this House, and on another day, another cluster will come, so that we allow these ministers to go and do their work. They are supposed to service the country.
Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy President, one of the ministers who is most notorious for not responding to any questions or to any letters that is written to them is Minister Pravin Gordhan. His arrogance and belief that
Objection, order.
Order,
Speaker. There's no way.
There's a point of order, yes, Honorable.
There is absolute order is in terms of Rule 92, but also with reference to point 85, and that we may never allow that a minister is referred in a manner that is referred to as notorious. Honorable Gordhan,
So what is the point of order?
the point of
So
order.
please, man,
Honorable
when
members,
man.
there must be no debating
Yeah, he's
across
out of
the
order
floor.
himself.
But there's a point of order, and I'm listening to it, Honorable
But
Mkalipi.
Speaker, why are you allowing him? Because he's not
Honorable
saying anything.
Mkalipi,
Why are you allowing
I
this guy?
have the right to decide to allow or not to allow. Please take a seat and let's continue listening to the point of order. Honorable Deputy President, you are also allowed to take a seat.
Honorable Speaker, in terms of the rules of this House, we do not accept nor can we allow, and we ask you to rule on the statement just uttered by the honorable member to say that the Honorable Minister Pravin Gordhan is notorious. We reject that and request that you ask her to withdraw it. Thank you.
I will double check the extent of any wrongness on the word notorious.
Can I
Please continue.
Speaker?
Just finish off your point, Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. His arrogance and belief that he is untouchable makes him believe that he is a de facto deputy president, undermining you. and your
Order,
office,
Honorable Member.
doing as he pleases, purging qualified black engineers from ESCOM. What are you going to do to make Minister Pravin Gordhan and others like him account to Parliament? And what do you make of the perception out there that Minister Pravin Gordhan has in
Honorable
fact
Mkhaliphi.
taken your powers as the Deputy President. Thank you, Deputy President.
Honorable Mkhaliphi, you are not allowed to repeatedly throw attacks on an honorable member of the House. Make a point and take a seat. You can't just continue taking the chance you are taking to attack a member
But
of
Speaker,
Parliament.
how?
Please take a seat.
But I'm done.
We are done. Take
Yes.
your seat.
But I didn't attack anyone, Speaker.
Take a seat, Honorable Mkhaliphi. Is there a point of Honorable Pando?
Speaker, on a point of order. Speaker, the honourable member has cast aspersions on Minister Gordhan, which should be withdrawn. You may very well wish to study the Hansard, but we all could hear very clearly. But the point I wish to stress is that it has become practice for these honourable members to attack Minister Gordhan in a most unparliamentary and derogatory fashion. And they've been allowed to continue doing it by presiding officers of this House.
Honorable Mkhaliphi, take a seat, please.
Can I raise on a point of
No,
order, Speaker?
allow me to finish with the issue I am dealing with. I will look at the Hansard as I've said, and I will come back and rule on this matter. Honorable Deputy President, I don't
Speaker.
know whether you want to say anything.
On the point of order, Speaker.
What's the point of order, Honorable Mkhaliphi?
The point of order is that there's nothing unparliamentary I have said here, Speaker, and I'm protected by the rules.
Honorable Mkhaliphi, please take your seat. Honorable Deputy President, do you want to say anything?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the question of Minister Pravin acting as the Deputy President, I think it's incorrect. I am the Deputy President until otherwise. And when I looked at Minister Pravin, he does not have any appetite to become a Deputy President. He doesn't. Well, about the communication that you had between yourself and Minister Pravin, to say he's not responding to your correspondence and all that, I'd like to be cited. If really you want me to intervene, I want to be cited on this. Because we hear these things out there, but correctly in the House, there are certain procedures that are followed. If really you are dissatisfied about a minister not responding, and the Speaker is here, and I'm sure honorable members will always respect one another in this House. You are very honorable, so we must be honorable in the way we do things. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Esther Reason. The Honorable of the IFP is looking at me, wondering whether I'm talking to him.
Madam Chair, maybe I pressed premature. I pressed for the next question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay. In that case, then, if Honorable Steenhuisen, unless you also pressed by mistake.
No, I'd never miss an opportunity to press on purpose. Madam Speaker, thank you very, very much. In relation to the Deputy President's reply about these issues that came up, like this visit to the French President, etc., and the responsibilities that he gets at the last minute. The problem with that and the explanation that he's given is that, in fact, as you would know, Madam Speaker, the Programming Committee decides the slots for the Deputy President's attendance in the House by consensus with his own office way in advance. So it's simply not right for him to say he's got other commitments that occur. What can the Deputy President indicate to us? whether he is going to consider implementing financial fines for ministers who don't attend when they're supposed to attend without proper excuse.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, I'm given another responsibility that as an individual I can stand up and say, I'm now fining you for not attending. Well, I've not thought of that. Well, maybe I'll think about it, but I've not. Then what do I do with you if you're not a member of the executive? So you are free to do as you please. It's unfair. It's unfair. Thank you very much, Speaker.
We move to question number 3 of the Honorable Shivambu. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, as you may recall, the President, in his State of the Nation a few weeks ago, identified 5 tasks that will underpin everything that we must be doing as government this year. He indicated our history demands that we should improve the education system and develop the skills that our country needs now and in the future. In this regard, the President indicated a significant policy intervention in the area of education to reflect preparation and adaptation to the demands required by the 4th Industrial Revolution. To achieve this, the country needs to implement a multi-pronged approach that focuses on the realignment of the curriculum at basic education level to prepare our learners for the changing world and introducing the requisite infrastructure and information communication technologies to support learning and teaching. Implementing targeted intervention at higher education level to respond to changing future industry needs in the age of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Partnering with the private sector to ensure that training and skills development programs produce the necessary relevant skills that are needed by the economy. Investing in research and innovation to drive industrialization in a changing world. In this instance, our universities must play a leading role. In line with the government's framework for skills for a changing world, training of both educators and learners will be expanded to respond to emerging technologies, including Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence. Several new technology subjects and specialization will be introduced, including technical mathematics, technical science, marine science, aviation studies, mining science, aquaponics, a combination of aquaculture, hydroponics, to name a few. To expand participation in the technical streams, several ordinary public schools will be transformed into technical high schools. More importantly, government will continue to invest in the necessary learning infrastructure and information communication and technology. As honorable members will know, the President articulated that over the next 6 years, government will provide every school child in South Africa with digital workbooks and textbooks on a tablet device. Already 90% of textbooks in high enrollment subjects across all grades and all workbooks have been digitized. These schools that have been historically mostly disadvantaged and that are located in the most poorest of our communities, including multi-grade, multi-phase, farm and rural schools, will be the first recipients of these devices. At a tertiary education level, government through the Department of Science and Technology makes a major investment in the training of masters and PhDs in the full range of technologies that underpin the fourth industrial revolution. This includes artificial intelligence, as we've said, robotics, cybersecurity, additive manufacturing, blockchain, Internet of Things, biotechnology, and nanotechnology. Such programs will enable talented young people and women to help shape a human-centered fourth industrial revolution. The Department of Higher Education and Training is also in the process of pulling all ministers that are involved in a ministerial task team with expert participation from academia, industry, innovation and research, as well as from government departments such as trade and industry, basic education, science and technology, into a team that will be looking at implementing all these innovations. In 2019, the TVET colleges system is focusing on updating all the technology-related curricula with the introduction of updated curricula in areas such as information processing, advanced multimedia, and online technologies. From January 2020, updated curricula will include Internet of Things as a significant part of life skills curriculum in the National Certificate of Vocational Qualification, with further revisions in information technology and computer science program, which will equip our students to engage in problem-solving solutions using technologies that are easily and readily available. A major part of the preparation for the delivery of the updated curricula will involve the training and upskilling of lecturers to deliver this curriculum. Therefore, we remain acutely aware that as an entire industry adjusts, many occupations are undergoing a fundamental transformation. While some of the jobs are threatened by redundancy and others grow rapidly, existing jobs are also going through a change in the skill sets that are required to do them. However, the nature of the labor that is required is likely to be more skill-intensive and knowledge-based, which will then could exacerbate the structural unemployment program. We therefore need to keep up with the global developments in the information and technology space in order to make the right policy choices at the right time. Finally, we believe the work of the Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution will provide further guidance on how, as government, can address the issues relating to massification of skills at society level, curriculum innovation at school level, digital literacy, reskilling the youth, and the development of innovation capabilities. Thank you very much.
We have been informed that in the absence of Honorable Shibambu, the Honorable Mente will take charge of the question and the follow-up. Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, I listened to your first question. It was more or less the very same question. And the promises that you are making now in the answer of this question. Number one, you speak of the Microsoft relationship you are having, which will kickstart in 2023. Now you are giving us promises of information loaded on devices that will be delivered to schools 2020, 2021. Let me give you the current status. The current status is that 15,000 schools do not have computers. 14,000 schools are not connected to internet. And only 452 teachers are competent in technology. That's the current status.
Yes.
Now, you speak of the imbalances of the
You are now left with
and
a
what
minute
is-
to ask a question.
But you're disrupting me. You speak of the imbalance between the skill and what the job market is looking for. Currently, we have the imbalance of technology competent teachers and what you are saying you are going to give. Now, when are you going to scale the teachers? How many are those devices? When are you going to connect the 14,000 schools? Is that going to happen this year before you deliver the devices? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I'm sure all the interventions that I've mentioned, this will not happen overnight. It's going to be a process of reskilling your teachers, updating your workbooks, introducing, as I've said, that the workbooks, some of the workbooks have been digitized. Now, some of the schools in Gauteng are already using tablet devices. So, this is a process, and we should not be frustrated about it. It's in motion because the nation is in motion. We are developing as a country, and it's going to happen step by step. All of us, finally, we will arrive, all of us. All of us, our learners, our schools, our universities, industry, all of us must adapt with this changing environment so that we can continue to grow our own economy and prepare our people, which is the human resource that must drive this economy. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Pozzoli.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Deputy President, I was a bit worried the other day when I went in the lift with an ANC MP who asked his friend, when is the fourth industrial revolution starting? And what this brought home to me is the level of ignorance in our, not only in our society, but among our MPs. One of the areas of the greatest ignorance, I think, is that the fourth industrial revolution is not necessarily a good thing, in that enormous amounts of jobs are going to be lost as it takes hold. And in fact, that is the biggest concern of people in most societies about the fourth industrial revolution. So you can't just gloss over this by saying, oh, well, you know, there'll have to be some reskilling. It's a very, very serious challenge. Now, many of the things you've mentioned are actually more about the third industrial revolution than the fourth, which was about IT and the information economy. So how do you define the fourth industrial revolution? How does the ANC define the fourth industrial revolution? How does it differ from the third
Honorable
industrial
Member, your
revolution?
time has expired for asking your question.
And what will you do about the job losses? Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, I take it it's really a new question. It's a serious new question. Now I'm called upon to define the fourth industrial revolution, which is not the question. I think we're deviating, but, well.
Does this mean you
Order,
don't know the
honourable
answer?
member. Please proceed,
Well,
DP.
a revolution in any given period, is defined as the way we do things in that period. Now, the revolution here, if we're talking about a skills revolution, if we're talking about IT, if we're talking about technology, the essence here is that the way we do things, the way we produce in our economy is going to change, influenced by factors that emanate from technology in the way we produce. For instance, in the automotive industry, as we assemble cars, we used to have human beings in the assembly line that are assembling these cars. Of late, we've got robotics that assemble these cars. Now, that means in an economy, from time to time, we change the way we produce. Therefore, it requires that people must go with the change. People must be ready. People must be ready to assimilate the change. People
Order,
must be
honourable
ready to
members,
move
we
with
need
the
to hear
change.
what the Deputy President is saying.
I'm answering you.
Honourable members, please
Well,
respect the rest of the House.
If I'm not helping you with your own definition, probably we should leave it at that. If I'm not helping you, helping you to define a revolution, but I can say, in terms of us saying we're preparing for the fourth industrial revolution, I can say we are in that revolution as we speak, because we are changing the way we do things. We are preparing our learners to change. That's it. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Kubisa.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, let's say we are dealing with South African learners. And in the past, I indicated that we have some people or the youth from other African countries who come here, but they are skilled. Now, within policy, at what level perhaps would you wish to see our African learner vocationally and technically equipped to start his or own business in case he or she were to drop out of school? And I'm saying this because there could be other factors militating against his or her progress to continue with schooling. Perhaps at what level?
Can you repeat your question?
The President, we have a learner. Mr. Deputy President, we have got a learner, a South African learner, that we are equipping, giving him or her skills. It may happen that on the way he or she drops out. At what level, perhaps, would the government wish to see the learner equipped in case that the child were to drop out of school to start his or own business?
Well, it will be...
Honourable Deputy President.
It will be a very difficult question to answer in terms of the level, because a learner can exit the system depending on the amount of skills that we've acquired. For instance, I can get out of school at level N2, N3, N4, N5, N6. But still, at a particular time when I leave, I've got a skill that can help me do something. So, it depends on the affordability of that learner. I can stay in the system until level 6, or I can leave at level 3, but I still have a skill. I can work. That is why I'm saying the question, it's a bit difficult, because I can do a junior degree and I can continue my study to a master's level, to a doctorate, but it does not mean that if I've done a junior degree, measured, specialized on something, I cannot exit. And I can exit and do work gainfully. Learning, it's a lifelong process. You learn as you go. Yes.
Honorable Killian.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The question to the Deputy President, but just by way of introduction, I want to say, Honourable Deputy President, it appears that the third industrial revolution has not always prompted the DA in the Western Cape to take action where schools were totally uninhabitable. I had a recent experience with Queen's Park where we had to drag in the administration because the school building posed a risk to the learners. But that brings me to the question regarding how we should adjust our school curriculum. Now, Professor from the University of Johannesburg, Professor Sarah Graffett, recently published an article about the critical skills necessary and how we should adjust our school curriculum going forward. Honourable Deputy President, could you perhaps give us an indication and could you elaborate further? How does government see the balance between knowledge-based and skills-based to negotiate the uncertainty of the new future that we're facing, notwithstanding the fact that it started? Sometimes I think there are also individuals who enjoy, for instance,
remember your time has expired.
Think back at Y2K, was a big scare, but we are in it already. Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I don't think we can separate skills revolution and knowledge-based revolution. Now, these two are intertwined. For you to have a skill, you'll need a certain amount of knowledge, right? And for you to do a particular job, you'll need a certain amount of knowledge and a certain amount of skill. So we have to change the curriculum to allow our learners to adapt. For instance, when I was at school, I did not do arithmetics, I did maths. But now we are talking of mechanical maths, which is a bit different from maths and a bit different from your arithmetic, right? But in learning this mechanical maths, I'm preparing myself for a skill. So you can't divorce the two. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 4, asked by the Honourable Masango. The Honourable, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable members, the whole continent of Africa remains at the heart of South Africa's foreign policy. which attaches particular importance to the African Union. During the meetings of the AU's various organs and subsidiary bodies, South Africa has strived effectively to promote the AU's shared vision as encapsulated in its Agenda 2063. Among others, Agenda 2063 commits the continent to silence the guns by 2020 in order to realize Africa's socio-economic development trajectories. This is aimed at making peace a reality by ending all wars in Africa by 2020. South Africa remains committed to work with other African governments to support the work and the mandate of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in its monitoring and enforcement of decisions on the advancement of human rights and democratic governance in the continent. The promotion and protection of human rights is also one of the fundamental obligations as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. South Africa also has an obligation to honor its commitment to the implementation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and other international treaties. The African Union's Constitutive Act discourages unconstitutional changes of government. African Union's desire to promote good governance in Africa manifests itself in the establishment of the instruments such as the African Peer Review Mechanism and the legal framework such as the African Charter on Democracy, Election and Governance. South Africa's involvement in the South Sudan peace process has been undertaken as part of our country's commitment to make a meaningful contribution to finding African solution to African problems and ensuring that the creation of a peaceful and prosperous continent. In this regard, as the President's special envoy to South Sudan, we held several consultations with the leadership of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, shortly known as IGAD. This included holding bilateral meetings with the heads of state of Ethiopia, Kenya, South Sudan, Sudan, and Uganda, which we exchanged our views on the required contribution to be made to ensure long-lasting peace and security in South Sudan. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, we must commend the contribution that has been done by IGAD leadership in facilitating the various stages of this peace process, including the signing of the Revitalize Agreement on the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, which was signed on the 12th of September 2018. Furthermore, we emphasize South Africa's position regarding the need for the people of South Sudan to be allowed to engage in a dialogue in deciding their country's future, and that efforts by external actors should be geared towards providing the necessary resources and support needed to ensure successful implementation of this agreement. One of the key issues that are being raised in providing support to South Sudan government and all the signatories to the agreement in terms of resourcing of all committees and structures provided for in the agreement. Honorable members will be aware that in terms of the agreement, the transitional government will come into effect in April 2019. And that will pave the way for the drafting of a new constitution and holding of democratic elections. These processes require both financial and human resource support, as well as humanitarian assistance. South Africa has committed itself to walk this journey with the government and the people of South Sudan. We are pleased that the warring parties in the South Sudanese People's Liberation Movement have finally found each other and are recently signing a reunification agreement. This will bring the much required cohesion in that country. So our intervention and the intervention of IGAD is starting to bear some fruits. In the coming weeks, we will be sending a consignment of humanitarian assistance under the auspices of the African Renaissance Fund. But that will be the contribution of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Masango.
Ngiyathokoza mphathi Nrambe. In 80s ka May senza bonyana bogalajane ingati ke bathi khamu tlhotla no tlabalala. Ba dormokar. Ke mthengu siyathokoza umbereko omuhle owenze eSouth Sudan wokubahelebha ukurarulula umraro wezepolitiki. Umbuzo enginawo ukuthi njenge special envoy kanye neAfrican Union nizokwenza noma nilethe gandrelelo bani bonyana ubuholoba buhloniphe imvumelano ezihlikihle etafuleni zombanganaga. Respect for the sanctity of agreement. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's a very critical question because as we are speaking, we're speaking about a revitalized agreement. That means the first agreement collapsed and we had to come again and revitalize that agreement. From our observation, the divisions were too intense and they were running deep. Tribal conflicts, they were running deep. Tensions between the warring parties running deep. But what is encouraging is that the key main parties have finally come to the party. What is remaining are smaller segments which are not really an issue in the broader scheme of things of that conflict. So we are confident that the agreement as it stands, it will be implemented. Now, those that have been outside the country, that have fled because of the fighting, finally came back, and there was that reunification process, which is proceeding. We must thank Uganda, we must thank Kenya, we must thank Ethiopia for their continuous support, because these people, when they leave their own country, they are going to the neighboring countries, which they take responsibility to look after these people, their safety, the food, everything. Now that the warring factions are now really serious about this, all of them have signed this agreement. Very promising. We're looking forward to April, where some of the resolutions in the agreement are going to be implemented. As South Africa, We have got a role to play in a number of committees that have been established to prepare that country for a democratic election. Firstly, the country must agree on the borders, must agree on the constitution, must agree on a number of aspects that will prepare them for a free and fair democratic elections. So those processes have unfolded. And as South Africa, we have assigned individuals from the country to some of these committees. And as South Africa, we're heading one committee, that is the Boundary Committee, which has started to work. The Constitutional Amendment Committee has also started its work. So there's progress, and we hope this time this agreement won't collapse. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Kwankwa.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, I note your work in South Sudan. However, South Africa assumed its seat as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council for the period 2019-2020 recently. Commenting on this issue, Minister Sisulu said recently South Africa will use its term to advocate for peaceful settlement of disputes and inclusive dialogue. DP Cameroon has been in serious turmoil since 2016, and very little is said or known about this, both in Africa and the world. The conflict between the English-speaking minority of Cameroon and the majority French-speaking Cameroon has led to gross human rights violations. It has been documented that government forces have carried out targeted killings, arbitrary arrests, and burnt down more than 90 villages, which has led to the displacement of thousands of people in Cameroon. In light of all the aforementioned, and in line with the African Union's goal of silencing guns by 2020, what steps has South Africa taken to ensure inclusive dialogue in Cameroon and a peaceful settlement of all disputes? Thank you.
Keep your questions short, Honourable Member. Go ahead, Deputy President.
Well, it's a new question about Cameroon. I think the question as asked here is about South Sudan.
No, I beg to differ. It says South Sudan and Africa at large.
Okay.
I'm following up on Africa at large.
Honourable Kwankwa.
Okay.
Have order, please. Go ahead.
Well,
no. Even when you want to clarify, keep quiet, please, Honourable Member. You're out of order. Go ahead, Deputy President.
Well, I might not be aware of our intervention in Cameroon because I don't sit in the AU. The president is sitting, but I'm sure that the AU is concerned about those issues and they are paying attention to some of the conflicts that are there in the continent. So it can't escape the agenda of the AU, the Cameroon matter. So I'm not really quite versed about the developments there. Thank you very much.
Honourable Mkalipe.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, I'm not going to ask a very difficult question now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to make your blood to boil. If you are saying that fragmentation is dividing the continent and hindering our development, the only way forward is a united Africa. But the vision of a united Africa and Agenda 2063 died with murder of Honorable Gaddafi, who was killed by the agents of imperialism. Unfortunately, painful so, your government participated in his killing. What is the view of the government towards achieving a united Africa through our economies, cultures, political institutions, with a common currency, army, and vision? I'm sure that one is very simple for you.
Thank you very much. Like I've said, this is an agenda. All these matters about the conflicts, the fightings in the continent, these are issues that are discussed and attended to by the African Union. And I'm sure it's not about an individual country like you are citing, that it was like the former president, Gaddafi, was the only one who was concerned about the peace and development of Africa. I'm sure all the leaders that are there in the African Union, leaders in the continent, are concerned about the problems in the continent. And they're investing a lot of time and resources. Our soldiers are everywhere trying to keep peace. That is an indication of the seriousness that these leaders are taking about the continent. Remember, a number of people have died in these peacekeeping missions. So it's not really that the AU is not concerned about its own affairs in the continent. But of course, you would appreciate the fact that as much as we can assist and support individual countries, but the onus is on that particular country and its people to resolve their own problems. We can assist, but we can't tell a country what to do. So the conflicts that are there, which we are spending most of our time and resources flying up and down, having meetings, trying to assist these countries that are in conflict to resolve their problems. I think it should be commended. All the efforts that are done by the African Union should be commended. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Kellyan.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mr. President, in your response, you emphasized that the rule of law is critical to achieving peace, security, and justice. However, South Africa failed to uphold the rule of law in the matter of President Omar al-Bashir. And that is quite shameful, denying many Sudanese people their human rights. Notwithstanding, Mr. President, in your answer as well, you referred to the fact that previous agreements with regard to the revitalization collapsed. Now, what is different this time with you as the special envoy that South Africa has laid out in terms of conditions which are conducive to the implementation of that agreement?
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Well, nothing different in terms of the crafting of the agreement. The agreement currently is a bit more wider, probably very impossible to implement. It makes a very cumbersome government, allowing 5 deputy presidents, so that every warring group must be close. That constitutes a transitional government, so that everyone can be in the house. That's the difference. The first collapsed agreement, there was a president and a vice president. All other parties were outside. But this time, all these parties were invited to participate. That's the difference. And this time around, all those parties that were outside were invited. They are now signatories to the revitalized agreement. So I'm saying, in a sense, there's a difference from the old agreement to the new agreement, because the new agreement is more encompassing. It involves those people who are left outside. So we hope that there will be movement forward, because all the South Sudan parties are now together in a dialogue. That's the difference. What's wrong with al-Bashir? I visited al-Bashir. I meet him all the time. So there's nothing wrong with al-Bashir. Well, unfortunately, I did not understand the circumstances at that time about al-Bashir leaving the country when he was supposed not to leave the country. So probably I cannot comment about a situation when I was not there. There should be people, qualified people who can answer on that. So I was not there. But in terms of the agreement, in terms of the current agreement, we're all confident that this time around we are going to implement it. Al-Bashir is not my friend, he's a president.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Ngwezi, to the Deputy President. Oh, I see. No, Honorable Ngwezi, take a seat. Honorable members, I move swiftly without stating that I'm moving. We move into question 5, asked by Honorable Ngwezi to the Deputy President. Deputy President.
I realize that, Deputy Speaker, that you did not indicate that we're on the next question. Deputy Speaker, a portfolio of public employment programs are, in essence, implemented through the expanded Public Works program, which is under the Department of Public Works. This is a nationwide government-led initiative that is aimed at drawing a significant number of unemployed South Africans into productive work in a manner that will enable them to gain skills and increase their capacity to earn an income or pursue opportunities in their sector of training. To participate in the EPWP program, you don't need any experience as a participant. However, if the honorable member is referring to the removal of experience as an unjustified barrier in terms of the minimum entry requirement in the public service, we would like to confirm that this matter is currently receiving the necessary attention by the Department of Public Service and Administration. In the main, this is meant to fast-track recruitment of persons, especially young people, into the public service. The call made by the President on experience no longer being a prerequisite for entry-level jobs in government, it's a game changer, and it will see a decrease in the high unemployment of suitably qualified young people. We have seen in the private sector other similar initiatives that are also aimed at affording unemployed young people an opportunity of a first-time job. So we call upon our partners in the private sector to embrace this call. As for the implementation of this pronouncement, the Minister of Public Service and Administration has issued a directive to all government departments on its implementation, and the commencement date is the 1st April 2019. In terms of this directive, all departments are required to introduce a graduate recruitment scheme and to identify graded posts based on the need identified in the Department of Human Resource Plan and other service delivery improvement initiatives. The Department of Public Service and Administration will soon be undertaking roadshows to further engage with national and provincial government departments on the implementation of this necessary change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Njaisa. Sorry?
It can't be Njaisa.
Oh, Ungwezi, sorry. Ngixolele mfowethu.
Ngiyaxolela,
Asilwi mina nawe.
Ngiyaxolela. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable President, Deputy President, I'm sorry. I wish first to commend the Minister of Labor for having been part of the IFP march that was held last year on 1 May, where the IFP actually, among the items in the memorandum, was the issue of removing or the removal of the experience as a prerequisite on certain job entry levels. And we commend the Minister of Labor for having made all the contributions in that, and government also to pronounce itself on this matter. And I get your explanation that you are engaging now the private sector, which I think is a good move because the private sector has the biggest share in terms of the creation of jobs in this country. But now my question will be then to say, how soon can we see the results? You know, if you anticipate, I'm not saying give me the precise answer, but I wanted to say previously, please engage the private sector. Or are you in the process of engaging the private sector? Now you are, but how soon can we expect some results, especially with the engagement of the private sector? Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think on the side of government, the directive will be with effect as from the 1st of April. Now, with regards to the private sector, the President initiated this move last year in 2018 when, together with business, the President launched the YES program. The YES program is meant to allow young people in companies to be employed for a period of a year without really requiring any experience, so that you afford them an opportunity to be experienced, they are qualified, they are employed for a period of a year, and during that period, they gain experience, so that beyond they can move forward, apply, and they are able to quote that experience that they had in that particular company. And this number of young people has grown. The private sector is taking more and more of these young people. The barrier here is this requirement of an experience for you when you apply for a job as a young qualified graduate. So I think the discussion with the private sector and the implementation of this program is already happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Njaisa, cishe ngawungenisa ekuqaleni kodwa sokuyisikhathi sakho baba.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, I know that I know that the department and government officials have got a tendency of not observing the rule. They may not even observe that directive that has been issued. I just want to check with you therefore that whether you have got any plans to deal with the culprits that may not implement the call that has been made by the President. Thank you very much.
President. Like I've said in the response here, that the Department of Public Service and Administration will take a roadshow. They will visit national and provincial departments to see to it that this directive is implemented. Where there are hiccups, they will help those departments to unlock those blockages. So the department will do that to ensure that all government departments adhere to this directive. And it's important to note that it is a particular department that must declare, must grade certain positions in that department that will not require that experience. After having fulfilled that process, then they can advertise those posts and attract those young people and indicate that there is no experience required. It's only a qualification that is required. So the Department of Public Service and Administration will assist departments and will monitor those departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Fick.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, there are and in some instances were effective mechanisms in place to upskill our people to prepare them for employment. One, TVET colleges. The curriculums are outdated, they do not have the tools and infrastructure, they do not receive the necessary support, and the graduates are underprepared for the workplace. Two, the seaters, there is too much political influence, they are captured, most of the funds are spent on a bloated bureaucracy and overheads with little left for upskilling. Three, apprentice boards are mostly non-functional. This has resulted in a critical shortage of artisans and skilled labor. The ANC killed everything. What action, if any, will you take to ensure that the aforementioned are effective and to achieve the desired results to solve the youth unemployment crisis?
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I must correct this assertion that the curriculum in our TVET colleges is irrelevant. It's untrue. It's irrelevant and outdated. Now, recently, the Minister of Higher Education has partnered our TVET colleges with industry. That means the kind of skills that are acquired in our TVET colleges, our students are given an opportunity to do some practicals in industries, in companies, preparing them for when they've completed their training. Some are absorbed by these companies. So there is a relationship between our TVET colleges and industry. As we speak, industries are adopting TVET colleges, and they are even assisting TVET colleges with some of the equipment that are needed in those colleges. So that there's a relationship that has been created, encouraged by the Department of Higher Education. So I can assure you that the skills that are acquired in our TVET colleges are more relevant, are becoming more and more relevant into our economy. Because these learners, these students, they interact with industry, and on their completion, they're employed full-time by these very industries. So industries are requested to adopt a TVET college. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Majeke.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, in respect of the fact that you've just said the implementation will take place from the 1st of April, there are those departments who already have made advertisement, e.g. a circular number 7 of 2019 by the Department of Water and Sanitation, where they still require a prerequisite of experience of 1 to 2 years for a cleaner. That this will be implemented in April. Are those departments going to re-advertise? Because the closing date was the 30th of March. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, I think the purpose here in every department, there will be a certain number of posts at an entry level that will be designated, that will be identified, put aside to say, in these positions, we don't require experience. We are talking about entry level. So it is the responsibility of the department to identify those positions that are at an entry-level point where experience won't be required. And in that case, they can then advertise. It's not that in every position in the public service, experience is not required. Certain positions at an entry level will be isolated and be marked positions that don't require experience. That is the intention, and the Department of Public Service will help those departments to identify those entry-level positions so that they are set aside to be advertised where experience is not required. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to question 6, asked by Honorable Sheikh Imam. Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The President, in his State of the Nation, identified stepping up the fight against corruption and state capture as one of the 5 tasks that we all require to undertake working together. This is a very clear message that as government, we are committed not only to root out corruption, but to strengthen the environment in which public representatives and officials alike can perform their responsibilities to the highest standards of ethics and integrity. There is currently a gap with regards to the vetting of public representatives, which at the moment is limited to the exclusion from being members of parliament only on the basis of one having been found guilty and sentenced for a prescribed period by a court of law. The process is currently left to political parties to select among its members those who can best represent them in this House. The leaders of political parties therefore have a responsibility to ensure that proper integrity checks are conducted so that elected public representatives are compliant with standards set for public representatives. In the event the Independent Electoral Commission identifies individuals that are not compliant with the provisions set out for public representatives, the IEC is empowered to disqualify those individuals. However, if vetting were to take place for the public representatives, this House must introduce such vetting mechanisms to ensure that the fit and proper persons are elected to represent the people. For government officials, we wish to assure this House that the different tiers of government do have a number of measures in place to strengthen accountability and responsibility in the public sector. In order to ensure that public service employees at national and provincial spheres of government possesses the highest level of integrity and accountability, the Department of Public Service and Administration issued a revised Code of Conduct in 2016, which clearly outlined the expected conduct of all public service employees. This Code of Conduct requires government departments to establish ethics committees and also to appoint ethics officers as one of the means to strengthen good governance and ethical conduct in the public service. The Public Administration Ethics, Integrity and Disciplinary Technical Assistance Unit is in the process of being promulgated and will be effective as from the 1st of April 2019. The Public Administration Ethics, Integrity and Disciplinary Technical Assistance Unit will be required to do the following: develop norms and standards on integrity, ethics, code of conduct, and discipline. Provide technical assistance to government departments in managing ethics, integrity, and discipline. Assist accounting officers to improve oversight and also to ensure that public service employees comply with the norms and standards on integrity, ethics, code of conduct, and discipline. Furthermore, as part of government's effort to ensure that public service employees at all levels display the highest level of integrity and accountability, the National School of Governance provide various training programs to officials in the public service targeted at improving the integrity of the state. Regarding the issues of employment in public service, all government departments are required to conduct personnel suitability checks on individuals as part of their recruitment process. These checks are done in order to ensure that suitable and credible individuals are employed in the public service. The Minister of Public Service and Administration has issued a directive on personnel suitability checks with effect from the 1st of February 2018. This consists of the following: criminal record checks, citizens verification, financial record checks, qualification, study verification, previous employment verification. Honorable members, there has been no decision by government at this stage to consider legislative amendment to ensure that anyone found guilty of any corruption or fraud will have all their benefits forfeited to the state. However, as part of dealing with corruption in the public service, government is introducing mechanism through the Public Administration Management Act 2014 to ensure that employees who continue to do business with any organ of state are subjected to internal disciplinary action and criminal prosecutions where applicable. As members are aware, Section 30 of the Public Service Act prohibits employees from performing outside remunerative work without permission. If the public service employees contravene this section of the Act provides that such remuneration earned by the said employee must be paid into the National Revenue Fund. Furthermore, disciplinary action shall be taken against any public service employee who perform remunerative work without permission. In addition to this, any funds received by the public service employee through illicit means may be dealt with by the asset forfeiture units within the National Prosecuting Authority. We must reiterate that government remains firm on getting rid of corruption and fraud within its ranks. We'll continue to explore all mechanisms to achieve this goal. In doing this, we call upon all South Africans to take part in fighting corruption and fraud. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, Honorable Deputy President, I'm informed that Honorable Kubisa will step in for Honorable Sheikh Imam for a supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Mhlonishwa Sekela Mongameli, you'll agree with me that prevention is better than cure. And I was hoping that perhaps in your response, you would even move further and include the private sector as well, because the private sector also reports to the same, accounts to the same government. Now, Mr. Deputy President, again, you might also agree with me that Parliament, the civil society and academia and other institutions played a huge role towards ensuring that there is a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture, ESCOM inquiry, SAPC inquiry, etc. And in light of the revelations and the processes that have been seen at the Zondo Commission, would you say, therefore, that the government finds itself in an opportune moment to ensure that what happened before does not recur? And I'm saying this, Mr. Deputy President, being aware of the unit that has been started within the Office of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to remind the House that the establishment of these commissions was the decision taken by this very government. It's very important that as government, we should be above all these issues. And it's important that we allow a process that will scrutinize our behavior, the way we do things. So it's a very encouraging step for government to say, here we are, these are the commission. Anyone who knows anything must go there and say it. I think it's a bold step. Now, these commissions should be given the necessary space to do their work. Of course, it's tempting for all of us, if we hear certain revelations, to say, want to suggest certain processes. I think as South Africans, we must allow these commissions to run their full course and allow those who are chairing those commissions to make their own findings. It's important that we walk this journey so that we learn out of this journey. We are a young democracy, and of course we cannot claim to be perfect, and we must learn as we proceed. So these commissions, we want to encourage our people not to cast aspersions to individuals that are being mentioned there, allow the final report to be presented. And people must be given an opportunity to go and say their say in that commission. And we will respect the final judgment of those who are chairing those commissions. So I'm saying these commissions must be supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, I want to ask you...
Honorable Paulson, do explain that it's you now, because it's courteous to do that.
Okay, my apologies, Deputy Speaker. I assume that you would know it's me now. It's me.
It must be recorded. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Deputy President, I want to speak to you about another Mabuza, a real tsotsi. We all know, as a matter of fact, that all appointments at board and management level at ESCOM are either people who have direct or indirect business interests in ESCOM and the energy industry. They have interest in coal contracts, maintenance of ESCOM infrastructure, such as boilers, and they also have friends and business associates who are building privately owned IPPs. And the current chairperson of ESCOM, Jabu Mabuza, family of yours,
Deputy Speaker.
recently told...
Deputy Speaker, on the point of order here.
Yeah, what's the point of order?
We ask you to rule on the
On a point of order.
unparliamentary language.
On a point of what?
Honorable member.
Can you note me after him, Deputy
Honorable member,
Speaker?
EFF, take your seat, please.
Can you
I'm
please
listening.
note- Can you please note?
No,
me after him?
take down. Go, please take your seat and be orderly.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. In terms of Rule 92, we ask you to carefully check with Hansard if the Honorable member, I tried to listen, I was not certain, if the Honorable member referred to the Honorable Deputy President Mabuza as the real tsotsi, and if so, to please rule on that reference.
Okay.
With respect to it being calling members names, as you would see, 82.3, that members may not call each other names, and members ought to refer to each other in respectful terms. And ask her to withdraw if that's the case. Perhaps with the able assistance of the table, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we could have captured that. Thank you.
Order, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable members, before I give you a chance to speak, honorable members of the EFF, the way you are screaming at honorable member every time he speaks is out of order, it is irresponsible, and it's not good if it's done even to you. Honorable Sonti, can you stop screaming in the house? By the way, this is the house. You can't just scream as you like. Please, you don't determine who must speak on any part of the house. Go ahead, speak, honorable member.
Deputy Speaker, may I address you in terms of Rule 78? This is an abuse from that member. I was just watching him. He was not even sure what it has been said. And he even confirmed to you here on Hansard to say that he didn't hear. But he is very quick to jump and said you must check on Hansard. Please, Speaker, can you just be protected as well? Please protect us. Can I be protected, Chair? Because this is a very bad conduct from him.
Honorable members, please, let's proceed with the business of the House. I do want to assure you, you will not succeed to stop any member of the House from raising a point as they see appropriate. You have as much right to raise your issues as they do.
Deputy
so please,
Speaker,
don't go
Speaker,
that route, and I will read the Hansard,
Deputy Speaker,
which is
maybe
their
you didn't
right.
hear my point. Can I just clarify myself? I'm saying, Deputy Speaker, it's an harassment and abuse of him to say that he didn't hear.
No, no,
Why
no.
he's jumping on the
I
microphone? he
disagree
didn't
with
hear.
you, Honorable Member. Take
no,
your seat.
but it's very unruly. It's very unruly, Deputy Speaker. We are sick and tired of him.
You are unruly.
He's very unruly.
Honorable Deputy
Wena.
Chief Whip, you are out of order and disorderly yourself. No, 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 no. The House needs to be protected against you.
I know, that's not right. Can I continue now?
Who gave you that? Who gave you that right, Honorable Member? Take your seat.
So,
Honorable Member, why are you rising?
I'm not done with my question yet. I'm not done with my question yet.
Proceed, you're left with 12 seconds. Go ahead.
No, I can't be, man. I didn't stand up here.
Your role, Honorable Member, you've got 12 seconds.
So Jabu Mabuza admitted to the Zondo Commission that he supplies coal to Eskom, that he has interest in a company that maintains the majority of boilers at Eskom, and his friends at Old Mutual, Sanlam, FNB, Nedbank, and ABSA are putting money into construction of privately owned
Your time has
renewable
expired.
energy.
Honorable Member.
Must Jabu Mabuza not resign? And as you said,
Honorable
they
Member,
must be
your time has
prosecuted in
expired.
court for having interest in public companies while being employed there.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Well, it's another Mabuza. It's not my brother. I think we must allow issues of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry to proceed. Let us not take discussions that are happening there and bring them here. Issues that are raised there, they will be finalized there, and the chairperson will make a finding, will make his own finding about anyone who's coming before the commission and saying anything. So, I'm saying, when I started, I said, let's allow these commissions to proceed, and let us allow those who are chairing those commissions an opportunity finally to present their reports. And their reports will tell us that after having listened to all these people, these are my findings. They will finally do so. Let's not preempt them. Thank you.
Honorable Van Dam.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I think I speak for a lot of South Africans who we say we are tired of all the krinkan kram higi haga by the ANC about corruption. At the SONA debate, I asked the President whether he would suspend ANC members implicated in the Bosasa corruption. He hasn't, because obviously he's not up to the task. So why have those members not been suspended? Because clearly the ANC is capable of suspending people. Zizikota was suspended. So why are the corrupt people who are implicated in corruption not suspended? Is it because if you do that, it's going to be empty years, with empty. Even you yourself, you'll be suspended. So when will the ANC as a political party start taking action against its own members? Even you yourself.
On a point of order, Honorable
corruption.
Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
The Honorable Member of DA.
Order. Honorable members.
Honorable Van Damme is
Honorable
casting
members.
aspersion on the Deputy President that he also...
Hold on, please. Honorable members, can you please be quiet? You who are shouting across it. Honorable Van Dam, look at me. You may not like my face. Honorable Zulu, look at me. You may not like my face and be orderly.
Honorable Zulu and I are from the same place, so I don't know why she's shouting. We're from the same place. We are sisters.
Honorable Van Dam, have order. What's wrong with you? Honorable members, come on. What's your story? Please stop being excited. Honorable members, go ahead, honorable member.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I was saying that the Honorable Vandame is casting aspersion on the Deputy President, saying that he also will be suspended. And for the record, I just want to let this House know that the commissions are still on doing their work, and Comrade Zizi Koto was not suspended. He's not suspended by anyone. So let's not grandstand in this House and mislead and deliberately mislead this House.
On a point of order, Zizi Kodwa was asked to step aside voluntarily. Why can't you ask?
Honorable Vandam, I switched off your mic because I've been telling you to stop what you're doing and you are flagrantly ignoring the rules as you know them. That you mustn't speak before you are recognized. Don't do that again. It's out of order. It's out of order.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker, may I address you in terms of Rule 82 of the NA rules? May I address you?
Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Before proceeding with switching a member's microphone off, the rules require you to inform that member that you're going to do it. If you want us to abide by the rules, Deputy Speaker, then the rules must be applied fairly and equally.
Honourable Chief Whip of the Opposition.
Honourable Deputy Speaker.
No, I'm speaking, and when I'm speaking, I must not be interrupted by anyone. Honourable Steenhuisen, you must speak to your members to obey the rules. I warned her that she's being out of order, speaking without recognition. She's doing that, and you are quiet. You didn't chide her to stop. You can't bring that here. It's out of order. You must help us implement the rules, Honourable Member. Please.
Deputy Speaker, I'm more than happy to help you implement the rules, but then the implementation of the rules must be done fairly and in terms of the rules.
Honourable members of the House.
Can't switch somebody's microphone off without following Rule 81.
Honourable Member, I will do it as the rules require me to do it. And when I don't, I will give you reasons why I'm doing it. And when I do that, I do it to advance the interest of order in the House, and you will stop screaming at me. Please. Honourable members, you will stop screaming. Yes. Yes, Honourable Member, what are you rising on?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you for finally noting me. Deputy Speaker, can we please continue with the business of the day? I don't know what chaos is the day causing. Can we just continue with the business of the day? Can we please continue?
If you just...
I can also insult you. I can come there and insult you very good. Don't start. Don't start with me.
No. Both of you take your seats.
Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Deputy President. Honourable members, can we proceed? Yes, what's happening, Honourable Member? What are you raising on?
Yes, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I just wanted to alert you that Honourable Steenhuisen misled the House. Rule 82 does not speak about any of the things he just said. He needs to read the rule book. Thank you.
I think that the Honourable Member spent a bit too much time in Barney's.
Honourable Steenhuisen.
I said Rule 82.
Honourable Steenhuisen. You see, Honourable Steenhuisen. Honourable Steenhuisen, who gave you the right to speak? I gave her. I didn't give you. No, you mustn't do that, Honourable. You don't have a patronizing duty to speak when you like in the House. No, I'm talking to you. No, you mustn't do that. You're out of order.
Honourable Speaker.
No, I'm proceeding now.
Honourable
I'm proceeding.
Steenhuisen made a reflection on me. I've never had alcohol, I don't know, in a long time. This honourable member has just made a personal reflection on me that I'm drunk.
Okay, I'll follow it up. No, I'll follow it up. I will follow it up. Honourable Deputy President, please proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Maybe there are certain things that we must clarify here. It's very important to clarify a few things. That no one no one is above the law. No one is above the law. Whoever will be found guilty will not evade the law. Will not evade the law. So, even if it's me, don't cast aspersions. If I'm found on the wrong side of the law must take its course. Now, we must differentiate between people, a process in the commission is unfolding. One person is coming, is making allegation about somebody, and that somebody must come and say his or her story, and the judge is going to decide. And finally, all of us must accept the ruling of the chairperson. And in that case, if there are individuals that must be prosecuted stemming from these commission of inquiries, let it be. But let us not jump the gun. Thank you very much.
Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Recognized when?
What's your
My
point of order?
question was, when will the ANC, as a political party, start suspending its members implicated in corruption?
Honourable-
That was the question,
Honourable
and I
member.
didn't get the answer, so I'd like the
Member.
answer.
Please take your seat.
Well,
Go ahead, Deputy President.
Well, probably I was trying to answer your question to say we cannot jump the gun and go to the conclusion and say so-and-so is guilty. Allow these commissions to run their course. All of us will be here, not unless we'll die. But one day, all of us will have the findings of this commission. No. Why suspend if you are not investigating yourself? Allow for a verdict. Allow for a verdict. So we can have our own interpretation, but finally I'm saying let us allow the commissions to run their course. That is a logical thing to do. Thank you very much.
Honorable Kekana. Enoch. Honorable E. Kekana. At the back there.
Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, I'm happy to hear that government is committed in rooting out corruption. And that is evident through a number of commissions that the Honorable President of the country, President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, has set up. However, I'm worried about the buy-in or cooperation from other institutions within government. For an example, Cabinet took a decision in 2014 that all senior officials should be vetted, particularly those in the supply chain management. But to date, that decision has not been fully implemented. Therefore, my question is, do you have a system or mechanism to monitor all cabinet decisions? And if so, can you, that is in this house, indicate a program as to how are you going to make sure that these decisions are implemented?
Your
and they are
time
not
has expired, Honorable Member. Deputy President.
Well, Deputy Speaker, we can check the implementation of this decision, especially the vetting of the supply chain officials. That we can check and give a report back to the House. But what I know is that all senior managers, right from the DGs of a department, the CFO of a department, before cabinet can consider their appointment, they must go through a vetting process. So vetting is being done on the appointment of senior managers in different government departments. I'm not aware of the officials in the supply chain, whether the same is happening. That we can check and give the necessary report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy President. Honorable members, we are done with questions to the President, to the Deputy President. And thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you.
That concludes the business of the day. The House is adjourned.